Welcome to the REthink Sales Show. My name is Derek Kelly. I am joined by Jim Shorkey. And Jim, I've just been fascinated by you, and I love to study what makes a good discipline, what makes a good habit, and recognizing that even good habits can turn not as good, or you don't perform as well. You start to recognize, I have my list of 10, but as you start to do that list of 10, your brain goes into autopilot.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
And what happens when your brain goes into autopilot is they say your performance actually peaks and then drops as you get used to doing something over and over again. So how do we combat that as salespeople, as entrepreneurs? We all want to set these healthy, good habits, but at some point we do them on autopilot and you don't actually improve. You stay stuck in the same disciplines or the same habits.
I think you have to be careful there.
Yeah.
I think that I've pondered this a lot because I did have a stroke. And it was a pretty serious stroke. I had three brain bleeds and shoulda, coulda, woulda died and all that. And so because of the stroke, I'm in a recovery mode right now. And I'm working very, very hard on this. And part of my idea from Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill is seek expert counsel. And so what I've done is I'm doing exactly that. And podcasts and books and different things like that. And so I found this book called Maximizing Brain Power. And I thought, okay, the title intrigues me. That's what I want to do. Am I going to have issues with dementia or Alzheimer's disease because of the fact that I had a stroke? I hope not, but there is a higher chance that I would. So I want to combat that opportunity to get dementia or to get Alzheimer's with very serious strategies, hence Rethink You 2.0. And one of the things they do talk about in this book, Maximizing Brain Power, now this is a PhD, and by the way, this is not medical advice.
Sure.
I want to be very clear about that.
Yeah.
This is just what before you do anything that I would maybe suggest today, then I would want you to talk to your doctors, your MDs, your medical personnel before you do that. This is not medical advice. But that said, surprisingly, the idea of routine is not good for your brain.
Interesting.
Now, that doesn't mean it's not good for your bank account. It means it's not good for your brain. I haven't seen the sense that the performance drops. I'm not there yet. But I do know that in terms of the brain and maximizing brain power and developing, the brain is there's an idea called plasticity.
Yes.
The brain is very plastic.
Yes.
Okay, so do you understand what that means?
It means it's malleable, right? It can
Yes.
move, it can mold, it can change.
Okay. What would the potential downside be to it being malleable?
I guess maybe it could move in the way we don't want. I'm not exactly sure.
That's
Maybe
exactly right. You answered it correctly. Malleable, we as human beings, as how we think is, okay, let's look at the good side of this. Let's look at the benefit of this.
Great.
So by the fact that it's plastic and plasticity means that I can grow new brain and I can make my brain better,
That's powerful.
but I can also make it worse. It goes both ways.
Yeah.
And the idea behind routine is it does work against the brain, but it doesn't necessarily work against the bank account. So if I'm a salesman, I'm going to do a certain process and I'm going to do that process every single time without variation.
Yeah.
But I think knowing that, I have to be working on my brain aside from the sales job. That's what I'm coming to the conclusion about.
Yes.
I don't want to get away from my habits. I want those to be there and maybe mix it up sometimes within the habits. But for the idea of, building the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group, let's talk about that.
Yes.
So the things that I did to build the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group, as far as my part in it is concerned, and I hate to, when I say I built the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group, I really didn't. I had a lot of people, but I was the leader. So the things that I did to contribute to the growing of the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group are exactly the same things I'm doing to rebuild this body. And it turns out that I can. It turns out that there is this thing called BDNF, which is a brain-derived neuro growth factor, I think is what it stands for. But my brain produces that under certain conditions. And there's things in my body that's a neuroplasticity, all these different things that I can do or that can cause to happen. And I do that by novelty. So what
is that? Explain.
Novelty is doing something new, doing something that I never did before. Learning how to play a musical instrument would be an example of novelty. Now I can sell cars,
Right.
but because I'm concerned about my brain and my health and all that, I can learn the instrument as an aside.
Yes.
I don't stop selling cars. I don't stop handing the client my business card right up front. I don't stop writing their name down because I'm known to forget it.
Yes.
I don't stop asking the proper questions. I do the same questions every single time.
Yes.
But if I put some novelty into my daily function,
Wow.
then I'm going to grow brain. I would improve brain. Now what happens with my process?
It improves because
It
you're.
improves.
Yeah, right.
My cognition is better. I can hear better. I can listen better. I can remember better. I can express myself better. As my brain improves, my whole circumstance improves. Really, it's a very profound thing that Jim Rohn said to me years ago. Things get better when I get better. And so I just got a major chill thinking about this because I'm going to improve my brain. And the brain is running the whole show. And if the brain is not working properly, then everything below the neck is not going to work as well as it could. It's not going to be maximal.
Right.
Doesn't mean your heart's going to stop beating, but it's just not going to work as well. Your kidneys aren't going to work as well. Your digestive system is going to work as well. As a matter of fact, in this book, they did a study where they were working with stroke victims and they were trying to learn how to walk again. And that was part of their therapy. So what they did was they took these folks, it was a cohort, and they put them through this brain training,
Yes.
cognitive therapy. Guess what happened to their walking? It improved. They weren't even working on it.
Yeah.
They just worked on this isolated factor called the brain. And they actually did better in terms of walking than the people who were practicing walking. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So I would be very cautious about getting away from routine. At the same time, I would be very cautious about just staying with only routine.
Yes.
Because what happens when you get to routine, you go from routine to automaticity. And when you get to automaticity, the brain gets bored. So the brain needs to be challenged. So again, as an aside, I'm going to challenge my brain to do difficult things along with my everyday disciplines,
Right.
along with my processes. You know? So I'm going to be cautious about being too routine oriented and too habit oriented because that is damaging to the brain.
So it's not an either or, it's a both and.
I think it's a
you
both.
always say salespeople should be constantly learning. They should be lifelong learners because they get these healthy routines and habits down, but they're always learning and adding to it.
Yeah, and so I am a lifelong learner, and ironically, as far as improving my brain, one of the best ways to challenge my brain is reading. And another great way to improve my brain is aerobic exercise. So I'd be walking at a good pace and running. I don't run anymore, but aerobic exercise. And then if you do the aerobic exercise and the lifting, the resistance training at the same time, the same venue, oh my God, it's that much better. So it would be aerobic exercise, resistance training, and reading.
Yeah.
And these are so much better. What's happened in society is we have this thing. Have you ever heard of evolutionary mismatch? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what we have. We have gotten.
So explain that for folks who
Well,
don't know.
evolutionary mismatch means that we evolved over a period of a time frame of millions and millions of years. And so if you look at 1,000,000 years compared to when was the light bulb invented?
Yeah.
It was in the late 1800s. I don't know that for a fact, but let's say, just to pick numbers, let's say the light bulb was invented 200 years ago. Okay. How does that compare to 1,000,000 or 10 million?
Yeah.
It doesn't even.
Right.
So we haven't had this idea of light very long relative to the time frame of us being on this planet.
Right.
And so what's happened with evolution in terms of the modern society is we have the technology has outpaced our ability. Like people say, you can adapt. You can adapt to a degree, but you're not going to evolve.
Yeah.
So we're still hunters and gatherers today.
Right.
Do you understand that? Now, we may not be hunting and gathering, doesn't mean we're not hunters and gatherers. So we've made life so much easier that there's no challenge.
Right.
For example, back in 1,000 years ago, we were mostly farmers at that time. What are we now? We go to the grocery store to get our food.
Yes.
Hunters and gatherers. We had to work to get our food. We don't have to work to get our food anymore. We can just turn the TV on and watch TV, whereas there was no TV.
Right.
So if we wanted to learn, we had to read. We don't have to read now. As people aren't reading today as much as they used to. So life has gotten so much easier that there's no challenge to both the body and the brain. And so in order to forestall the deterioration that occurs as a result of the evolutionary mismatch, did I explain that clearly enough?
Yeah, I think it was great.
We're not wired. Our brains are not wired for the ease of life today.
Yeah.
So how do we counteract that? We got to throw challenges at ourselves.
Right.
And that's where, when you got here today, what was I doing?
You were out walking in the driveway down the hill. Yep.
What's the weather like?
It's rainy and cold. It's
And
pretty
how
windy.
was I dressed?
You were dressed pretty lightly for the weather.
Yes, I was. So I was getting cold. And I walked, you know my hill, right?
Yep.
How tough is that hill?
It's
I've got 30 hills in so far today.
Wow.
30, over 30, probably about 35. And so I went out there and did that. I walked 2 miles. I walked actually a little over 2 miles because I wanted to get over 40 minutes. And I actually ended up being closer to 45. So I probably got about 2.5 miles in is my guess. Wow. But I was out there walking and I got my hills goal, right? So I said, okay, I'm done. And I thought, you know what, Jim, let's challenge ourselves here. So I'm tired. My legs are sore. I walk down that hill again and walk back up. I don't go the whole way to the bottom. I go about maybe anywhere from halfway down to 3/4 way down. But the point is, and I get to where I'm going to turn around. I thought, okay, your workout's almost done. You feel pretty good. Let's go a little further. So I'm challenging my body and I'm challenging my brain. I'm putting a challenge there. A hill is a challenge. A flat surface is a challenge to a degree, but not as much.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I did all that. And I had already made up my mind I was going to do the cold plunge today, okay? And I'm cold plunging. Again, this is not medical advice. Be very careful with these ideas. So I'm cold plunging at 41 degrees.
Whew.
Okay?
That is.
So I'm out there walking and I'm going to do it, and my brain is not wanting to do it.
Yeah.
So I get to where I got to get naked. The brain says, what are you doing? Going to go do the cold plunge? Oh, come on, not really today, really? So the first wall is getting in. So I'm getting in at 41 degrees. I was already outside getting very cold. I never did warm up. I was outside. I go right from walking outside, wet, everything, to the cold plunge. Get in, and my goal was to be in there for 5 minutes. And I was actually in there for 7. So I got to 5, and I thought, okay, let's challenge this, Jim. Let's challenge it. I got to 7 at 41 degrees. And I'm telling you right now, it is a definite challenge. Now, in reading my book, ironically, the things I just said are the things they're telling me to do.
Yes.
Another thing that I'm doing right now, again, challenging my brain, challenging my body, is I'm fasted. So this right here is matcha green tea, which is a really healthy idea. This is the first thing I'm putting in my body. It does not break my fast because there's no calories to this. And I have some MCT oil in here, and which MCT oil is very good for my brain. It's a very good fat for my brain. So I got some MCT oil in here. I've got matcha green tea. It is right now a little past 10:30. And so I stopped eating last night probably around 10 o'clock. So 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock is 2 hours. Another 10 hours, 10:30 is 12 hours. So right now, and I'm recording. We're doing a recording.
Yep.
And I'm fasted.
Yeah.
Okay. This is, in reading the book, the intermittent fasting is very good for my brain because the brain, when I'm fasting, my brain sends a signal to my whole body, I want food.
Yeah.
We got to go get food. So what happens? My cognition improves, my sight improves, my hearing improves because I've got to go out and hunt and gather. Remember, evolutionary mismatch. I am not going to the refrigerator. I am a hunter and gatherer. That's my evolution. Now, granted, I can go to the refrigerator, but my brain is in hunting and gathering mode. And I've already been out walking and whatnot. So that's the hunting and gathering kind of thing. And it did all these different things. So I'm going back to my evolution and challenging myself. Does that mean I'm not going to, does that mean that I'm going to live in a cave tonight? No, it doesn't. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to sleep in a bed with blankets and all that. But at times throughout my day, week, month, life, I've got to present myself with challenges. So back to the salesman. Do your process. It works.
Yes.
If you do it 10 out of 10 times, you're going to get very good results. Do it to the best of your ability. And then go to work on your brain and your body, and you will perform that much better within that process. Don't get rid of the process.
Yeah, that's good.
Improve the process. How do we do that? We have the ultimate machinery right here. Nothing has ever been invented like this.
Right.
From here
Right.
to my toes. Nothing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing that I can say in my brain right now, I'm going to wiggle these fingers. How's that work? Look.
Yeah. It's
Look
crazy.
what I'm doing. I'm going to turn my head.
Yep.
How's that work? My brain is telling my body what to do. Guess what? It can tell it what to do in a good way, and it can tell it what to do in a bad way.
Yes.
And we can improve the telling by going to work on the brain.
Yeah.
Long answer to a short question.
No, it's a great answer because I think sometimes people hear what we're saying and they say, oh, Derek and Jim, they're just all about checking the boxes. And we absolutely are.
Yes, we are.
But we also are about improving your brain and your learning so you can know how to seek expert counsel. You can know your reason why. You can follow the things we teach inside of Rethink You in terms of the creative cycle, in terms of do simple first. You can learn those things to improve your brain. So we like to check boxes. It feels really great when I'm able to say,
does.
yes, I did this. Yes, I did this.
It does.
But if I stop there and my life is sequestered to these are the 10 things I'm doing and I'm never improving in any other way, then that's not what we're teaching. And so I think it's really important to remember of, yes, let's keep doing these routines really well and adding new ones and learning. Because that's what makes someone successful, whether it's in marriage, whether it's in sales, whether it's in life in other areas, whether it's in finances. It's
If I improve my brain, does it make sense that I will improve my marriage?
yes.
It does. I think better. I react better.
Right.
I do things better.
Yeah.
I don't know. When you're a stroke victim, a lot of times you have a hard time walking. And so they go to work on these folks with walking. Now, I didn't really have that problem. I had problem walking at the beginning because I had gotten so weak. And I did have some issues, but it wasn't like it would be with other stroke victims who literally can't walk and they have to learn how to walk again. So what they did was there was two different protocols. One was to work on the walking, and they walked and practiced, and they had people holding them up, and they had walkers and all these different things. And the other group did the cognitive therapy, meaning they worked on improving their brain, in essence. Okay, again, this is not medical advice, but they worked on improving their brain. And what they found happened was their walking improved dramatically because the brain is directing the show. And the brain is telling left foot lift, right foot lift. The brain's running the whole deal. And we think that it's automatic, and it is to a degree because we've been walking for a million years, but still there is some thought process that goes to that. And if the thought process is altered because of a stroke, then the walking is not going to be as good. But the bottom line is the people that did the cognitive therapy training, the brain training, challenging the brain, their walking improved better than the other cohort who were practicing walking.
Yeah.
They got better at walking because their brain improved.
And I think that makes your point really well of, hey guys, if you're hearing us and everything we teach and talk about, please don't stop learning and improving.
Yes.
It's such an important piece, right? So many of us are like, I want to learn the exact process. You learned so much from Mr. Hamilton, and then you improved on top of that.
But
right?
at the end of the day, if I can improve, I just want to make this clear. If I can improve this machinery here from head to toe, and I want you to pause and really think about that, listeners. If I can improve from head to toe, 1%, my sales will improve as well.
Yes.
10%, 20%, 30%, holy cow, you'll hit it out of the park. You might double your income. So we still have to do the process. I want to be very clear about that.
Yes.
Even though the process can work against us if we're not throwing novelty at it. We can't just do our processes and our routines because the brain gets bored. That's what happens.
Yeah.
And as it gets bored, it deteriorates and it doesn't work as well. And that's what you were saying before we came on, that the performance with the routines plateaus and then it goes down. We can't let that happen. I can't let that happen. I did have a stroke and I'm fighting the fight. Believe me, I am. I'm fighting. You saw me out there today.
Yeah.
So I can't make this stuff up. I am intermittent fasting. I did do the cold plunge. I did do a 2-mile walk with a bunch of hills in there. There's probably about 35 hills in there, counting walking up the steps a couple times here. I did. So I'm working hard, Derek.
Yes.
Very hard. And I'm going to be just fine. My brain will regenerate itself. That's probably not the right terminology, but my brain will get bigger. It'll get heavier. It'll get stronger. My connections within my brain will be better. Everything is going to be better.
So guys, if you enjoyed this content, please comment below. Let us know how this is. We love creating this content for you. We actually have a video called Sales is Personal Development, where we dive into another angle of this about how, as a salesperson, you should be focused on your own personal growth and development.
Yes.
So check that one out. If you're listening on one of the podcast platforms, please leave us a review. We'd love to hear from you. Jim, I can't wait to dive into a story on the next episode. I will see you
Wonderful.
then.
Thank you so much. See you soon.